And hello everyone, welcome back to another Love2D tutorial. So in the previous tutorial, we added a few lasers, pew pew pew. However, in this tutorial, we'll be adding collision for those lasers, and it will be pretty cool. Now I have to show you this. Let's just move this here. If we go here and we shoot, it splits into two. Shoot again, it splits again. And shoot it again, now it's gone. And this is a very customizable thing that have popped up here. So you can make this more customizable and maybe break up into more pieces, maybe move faster, maybe be bigger or smaller. And once you shoot it up, nothing happens, but we can implement that later. Isn't that incredibly cool? Also something you might notice, if we were to go here and we were to shoot, pew, you'll notice it's a little explosion animation thing where it has a little bit of color once it touches the asteroid. Nice. Now I'm going to remove the whole debugging thing, not from the game but just from our visual standpoint, because currently I don't think we need it. But if you do get stuck and some sort of error occurs, turn on debugging and see what's happening, because especially when we do collision detection, which our debugging is exactly doing, showing us where the collision happens, then that is when it's most important. But I'm going to disable it, but I'm going to make sure that we can re-enable it easily again later. Cool. So let's create a new file. Just say new file, and this can be globals.lua. Now these are going to be variables that are going to be global scope, like massive global scope. Everywhere this can be used, and that's the point of this file. So whatever we put in here, we can use anywhere within the game. So let's first do asteroid size, and let's make that 100. We'll be using this asteroid size in multiple files, so it makes sense to put it here, because we're not going to attach this specifically to an object. This will just kind of be there. It will be able to be used whether that file uses the asteroid object or not. And you want to have show debugging. You can make this all capital case just like with this asteroid size. But the difference is we don't want to change this asteroid size in the game. It's a constant. We don't want to touch this except if we're getting the value, but we don't want to set a new value. We don't want to change that to 150 while the player is playing the game. We could, but we don't want to. Show debugging, however, we might want the player to allow them to show debugging. So like if they go into the settings, they can turn debugging on or off if they're maybe a developer or is interested in that sort of thing. And we can make that equal to false by default, but you can keep it true if you still want the debugging information. Now one last thing I would like to do is do our distance calculation math here. And this will just calculate the distance between point A and point B. We can say function calculate distance x1, x2, so this can be y1 as well. We can do x1, y1, x2, x2, or y2. Now, this will be the x and y position of the first item. Then we want the x2 and the y2. So this will be x and y position of the second item we're trying to get the distance from. You could put this in their own little tables instead, but I think that's overkill. So let's just do it like this. We can then return just a simple math function, so math.square-root, so squirt, and then first we can go here and say x2 minus x1, and then to a power of 2. You could split this up into multiple lines. Don't get me wrong, you could split this up into multiple lines. And why not? Let's actually show you how it will look. So go here and say local dist x, and then we can go here and we can move that like that, and then here we can go local dist y for the y distance difference, and it will be the same thing, but this time it will have y instead of x like this. So remember, it's the second y minus the first y. So it's where you are going to minus where you are. That's very important to take note of. And then in here, we can just say dist x plus dist y. And this will give us the distance between x and y. So this math right here. Not between x and y, but the distance between those two values. x1 and y1 and x2 and y2. Yeah. Alright, and that is the basics for this right here. So that is how you calculate the distance between x and y of two items. And now we can close that because we don't need it anymore. And also it seems like this dot notation works. Since my IDE auto completes that, I'm just going to leave it like that. So you can just use this instead of slash from now on. But in the game code that I'm going to provide you, if you ever download the code, it's going to use slash and not dot. Cool. So let's remove the debugging stuff from our objects and stuff. So let's go here and to the player. And here where we take in debugging, we're not taking that in anymore. It's now global scope. And it's called show debugging instead of debugging. So debugging right here. So instead of debugging, we can say show debugging because it's global scope. And you don't have to because Lua will automatically know. But I would recommend you go require global like that, because right there, so you want to require that. This isn't required to do this is an optional step, but I do recommend if you're going to use global stuff here. Then you can close player. Now here in main, where we pass in show debugging, we can remove that. And we can actually remove this debugging as well. Now let's first go to the laser, because that's where a lot of the things are going to happen. We're going to add a few new things. We're going to make them like states. So first will be the exploding state. And this can have 3 values. It can have a 0 for safe, a 1 for exploding, so if it's currently exploding, and then a 2 for it's done exploding. And then also an explode time, and this will hold how long it has been exploding. So if you want it to be on the screen for like 1 second, then this will allow you to keep it on the screen for 1 second. Cool. Now let's go to move right here. And let's first check if it's exploding. So if self.explode time, if that is more than 0, then we know we are exploding, because otherwise it will always be 0. But if it's more than 0, that means we're currently busy exploding. So self.exploding is equal to 1. What I actually recommend you do is you set some sort of state to help you with this. For example, local exploding enum or something like that. And it will be a table that is like not exploding, and it will keep 0. And then exploding, and that will keep 1. And then I think there was the last one for if it's done exploding, like done exploding. That's equal to 2. I'd actually recommend you do this instead, just to keep things simple for you and for your future self. Because if you're going to continue working on this, then having something to manage it is the smartest idea you can have. However, once this course is done, I'm done with this project as well. So I'm not going to add it. To me, it's not necessary. While we're here, let's set the explode duration. Explode duration. And I'll just set this to 0.2. You can change this later depending on what you think is the better time to explode. So the more you make it, the longer it will be exploding. Now we need to implement a function that once we want to explode, we can. So we can go here and say explode is equal to a function and just takes in self. And this will just explode, in quotation marks, our laser. Now we're not going to mess with the explode time just yet. Currently we just want to remove everything. But for right now we can say if self.explode time is more than explode duration, then end self.exploding is equal to 2. And this will just make it explode. And it will kind of allow us later to do some exploding animations. Next up, let's maybe go to Asteroids. So we can go here, we can open up Asteroids, and we can implement our stuff. First, let's take out debugging. We don't need that anymore. And now we should have something that wants to debug but can't. There we go. And we can change this to show debugging, and we can require globals like that. And boom. Now that has also been done, we can now go to game.lua, and here it goes to Asteroid and it adds this. We don't need that extra one anymore because that was just for debugging. Debugging is now global. If you turn debugging off, everything will have debugging turned off. If you turn it on, everything will have it on. You don't have to individually go change which one has debugging and not. So now let's go to the player.lua, and we can go to the way bottom where we are at. So right here we're getting the index and the laser. And now we want to check if the laser is exploding. So for right now, none of this really matters. We can just go if laser.exploding. So if the laser is exploding, and we're going to make sure if it's 2, then we can just say self.destroy laser. And this destroy laser, if you can remember from the previous video, it just destroys the laser. It's very simple. This is going to become a bit more complex in a second, but I just want to get the idea out. Next, we can go to lasers, and when we go to explode, we can just make it disappear. So we can just actually, for right now, remove that. We don't need that. We can just set the exploding to 2. Now once it explodes, it's going to set the exploding to 2. So we should also go here and say if if laser dot distance, so it's the distance it has traveled, if it is more than the max laser distance, so actually this right here, so let's actually just go here instead, and let's just go and add and, because it already has the first part. So if it has traveled the distance of the max it can, and the laser dot exploding is equal to 0, so only if it's not currently busy exploding, then we can explode the laser. So we can just go here and change this to explode, and this can now be laser : explode, and it doesn't need anything. This destroy laser, however, needs self and index. So we will now actually see if it works. We'll move this explode up. So if it works, it should disappear once we run it. So it's gone. Okay, so it does work. We can now just make it work better, because as you can see, they do disappear. Alright, now that we know it works and it disappears, let's upgrade what we have. So with this explode, we can then say self.explode time is equal to math.seal to make it go upwards, explode duration times, and here we can just say love.graphics.getFPS, and there should be timer.getFPS. Yet again, I would recommend we actually use DT, but in this scenario, it's not too important. And we can divide it by 100. And this will basically say how long it has been exploding for. Then we can go here and say if self.explode time is more than explode duration, we can just put that there, and exploding is equal to 2 then. Now as we know, if the explode time is more than 0, so if explode time is more than 0, it will set exploding to 1 for us, and then it will be busy exploding, and we can draw things here like it is busy exploding, like some nice things. Now the nice things I do want to draw is maybe like a yellow and an orange explosion animation type of thing, and it will just appear once it's busy exploding. So let's go here where we draw everything, and we can just say if self.exploding is less than 1, so if it's not 1 or 2, if it's 0, then we can just do this, what we've been doing this whole time. Otherwise, if it is busy exploding, we can go else, then we can say love.graphics.setColor, and this will be of the outer explosion, so the bigger explosion. And we can just say 1 for complete red, then 104 divided by 255, and then no blue. And you can also pass in the opacity in case they're pausing. And then we can set the color for the inner explosion, so the smaller explosion inside. To give an example of what I'm talking about, let me just go here. If I shoot, as you can see, it's paused, but as you can see, there's like a little orange part, and then inside of it, there's a yellow part. And that's what we're currently doing. We first did the orange part, we're now going to do the yellow part. And let's actually just copy this Love2D. And yellow would be a bit more greenish, so 2, 3, 4. That should give us like a yellowish color. We're going to go here and say love.graphics, and we can draw a circle. Circle, and you could of course make this way more complex and cooler, but I think this is fine for now. Fill, and then self.x to give the x position of the laser, and then self.y to give the y position of the laser, and then we want to make it a special size. We can first just make it a 7, that's not very big, but the bigger one, and we can just go times 1. The bigger one, however, will be times 1.5. So it will be a teeny weeny bit bigger. So around 10, whilst this one here, this one will just be 7. You can even remove that if you want and just have a 7 there. But this would be 7 and this would be almost 10, maybe 10. But yeah, you could make this more like 2, and you could put this in a variable to make it a set size and you just add to it. But yeah, it's up to you. You can change this so it's not math, it's just a number that you put in there. It's up to you. Now let's go look here. If we run this, then at 62 instead of our laser, we have a problem. So right here, and this should not be and, this should be times, my bad. And now if we run it, we should not be getting any errors. Cool. It's not going to quite explode as we want just yet, because if it doesn't hit anything, we don't really want that explosion animation to happen. It should just disappear. Otherwise, it would be kind of weird if it just randomly flew and then boom, it exploded. Then that would be a bit weird. Cool, let's go to player. So first, this laser move, we don't always want to move the laser. If it's busy exploding, the laser should just stop moving. Otherwise, it's just going to hit an asteroid and keep on moving, which is a bit weird, but could be cool if that's what you want. So we are already doing the whole explode thing here. So let's go here to where we say exploding is equal to 2, and let's add another if statement above it. And this one can be if it's 1. I mean, not 2, but if it's 0. So if it's 0, then we just want to move, because then it's not currently exploding. So we can just go like this. But yet again, we set with the problem, it can move and it can explode on the same time. So we can just go here and say else if. So it's either this one, else this one. But if it's not 0 or 2, it's not going to do either of these. So if it's 1, it's just going to stand still, and it's not going to remove the laser from the screen. Because here it removes the laser from the screen, and here it moves the laser. But if it's 1, it's busy exploding and showing us that orange and yellow, so we don't want to then move it or destroy the laser just yet. Alright, now let's go to main, and here maybe an update. I'm going to hide this. We can now go 4, and we don't need the index, we just need the laser, and we can just say player.lasers, and here we go laser colon, or we don't need to explode just yet. First we need to calculate the distance. So if, and then we can just calculate distance, which is coming from that global file, so require globals, so that's require distance, and then go laser.x, laser.y, so this is the first one, this is where we are, and then we need to go, or then we need to add where we're going, so the asteroid, asteroid.x and the asteroid.y, and this will calculate the distance between the two. If it is less, then the asteroid.radius So if this right here is less than this radius of the asteroid, so if it has entered the radius of the asteroid basically, then we want to laser colon explode. So then we want to explode the laser. Let's see if that works. And that's going off screen. And there we go. Pew. And it is. Although it's not doing much, it is there. So we give it a shot again, as you can see. Now if it enters or almost enters, depending on how the circle is positioned, then there we go. Now if we were to turn on debugging here, so if we were to open up globals again, and we were to make debugging true, we could see where the laser will explode. So the red circle is where it will explode. So it won't necessarily explode on this part right there. It will explode once it hits the red circle. Cool. Now once we do this, we need to also destroy the asteroid. So let's go here to Asteroids, and we can add another function right underneath move. You can also call this explode. I'm going to call it destroy because you're destroying the asteroid, but it's not necessarily exploding. So destroy is equal to a function, and this takes in self the asteroid table. So this asteroids table will be provided to us. It is to basically get the asteroid we want to destroy. You could put this somewhere else, so you don't have to make it part of the asteroids. In fact, it would make sense if you don't make it part of the asteroids, but it would also make sense if you do. It's up to you if you make it part of the asteroids or not. But then we also want the index of the one we want to destroy, and then we want to take in the game as well, so the game state. And I'll show you why we'll need all of this in a second. First, let's just remove it. So table.remove, and then from the asteroids table, the index. So these two we're passing in. So let's quickly remove game for now. Now, if we have this, we can then go here. Let's include game. It's not that big of a deal adding it here. Then here we can say asteroid colon destroy, because if it's here, then that means the laser has penetrated the asteroid, so we need to destroy it. And we can say asteroids, then the ast index that we're getting here. So this is the table, and this is the index. And then you can just pass in game as well. Game, which is right here. If we save this, then the asteroid should also be destroyed once we hit it. As you can see, it's gone. We'll do it again. And then my player is gone. Very annoying bug. I go here, shoot, gone. Now we want to split the asteroid up into multiple smaller asteroids. So let's go here to asteroids, and where we say destroy, we can then go local min asteroid size, and this will be the minimum size an asteroid can get. And you say math dot seal, and you could put this right here. You could put it like up here. That will also be perfectly fine. I'm just going to do it here because why not? And we can say asteroid size, so the current asteroid size we have, divided by 8. You can change this to fit you however you think would be best. Then if self.radius, if it's more than min asteroid size, then we want to basically split the asteroid in half. So table.insert asteroids table, so into this table right here, an asteroid object with the position of self.x, so the current asteroid x position, self.y, self.radius, and then the game.level. We can just go here and say self.radius. If we go up here to draw, or not draw, but here, we're taking in x, y, the size, and then the level. And then here we could make another one, and now we have 2 new asteroids. Now if you wanted to, you could make this go, you can go another step and add another asteroid, but only once one of these asteroids has been destroyed. So then it splits up into 3 smaller asteroids. So once the second smallest asteroid has been destroyed, you split it up into 3. So the big asteroid, that splits into 2, which are smaller asteroids. And then this will also split into 2, but you could make it split into 3 if you're not too lazy. However, I'm going to leave it as is because I'm fine with it as is. If we run the game and we shoot, there we go. Now it's split into two. There we go. Now that's also split into two, but you could make it split into three if you think that's better, and it will be more challenging. We go here, we shoot. Now there's two, and then you can destroy the rest. And then here we go, and the pew 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 pew, gone. And yeah, that is the basics of adding collision detection to our game. You can play around with this. You know, you could even try and add collision detection to the player, because that is what we'll be doing in the next tutorial. So if you try and do it for the next tutorial, but right now, then that could be pretty neat. So if you're able to do that on your own, then wow, well done. But if you'd rather wait, no worries, next week we'll have a tutorial out on player collision. And yeah, that's that. Play around with this code, understand it a bit more, and we're good to go. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. And I will see you all again in the next Love2D tutorial.